Hey, what's up, team? It's Sherman here from Geek Psychology. This video is going to be about Doctor Strange. I saw the movie a little while back when it was released here in Japan, and the whole time I was like, oh my god, this guy's powers are the powers of an INTJ. And I'm not saying that he specifically is an INTJ, although I think he is, but he is a fictional character. But his abilities and what he does, I feel, are very similar to how an INTJ works. Of course, with this complete expansion of it into metaphors and stuff like that. So I'm going to talk about it in this video. And of course, I'm not going to be able to cover everything. I'm not going to go into the history of Doctor Strange or anything like that. And if you don't know what the components that make up an INTJ are, like introverted intuition, extroverted thinking, introverted feeling, extroverted sensing, if that's all nonsense to you, that's okay, because I'm going to explain it a bit through talking about his abilities. So let's just get right into it. So basically, I'm just gonna talk about it, and we'll hopefully go to the right places. He exists in two worlds. He's he's a protector of this other realm as well as of Earth. And I think a lot of INJs, these introverted intuitives, can kind of relate to that, being able to see things just from a perspective that most people don't. They kind of feel they're not always in touch with the same world that everybody else is, especially in this extremely extroverted sensing era that we're in. And so his abilities, basically he's got a bunch of artifacts as well. And the first one that I think really encapsulates introverted intuition is the Eye of Agamotto. And it's this mystic conduit in the physical realm. Introverted intuition is connected to the same spectrum as extroverted sensing, and extroverted sensing is that real tangible world. If you go outside and you're noticing how the birds are flying along, you're listening to the sounds and feeling the ground on your feet and the wind and stuff like that. That's the real extroverted sensing realm. Okay, it's the real tangible world. But introverted intuition kind of detaches itself from that real world to see things from a different perspective. And that's kind of what this orb of Agamotto does. It's a weapon of wisdom, a scrying orb that lets him, see things and predict things into the future. Yeah, so this orb shows the truth. This Eye of Agamotto shows him what is going to happen, what has happened in the past and stuff like that. So he can see across distances and time. And as I was saying, introverted intuition kind of lets you detach yourself from the standard perspective and kind of shift your ideas and look at things from a different way. And because of that, it's kind of timeless in a sense. It goes with the ebb and flow of time, and it's not really attached to the past or the present or the future, but it's kind of using the past to see into the future and imagine what's going to happen in a real way. And let's see, he can dispel illusions with the Eye of Agamotto, and this is seeing things not as they really are in that extroverted sensing realm, or not using the same perspectives that everybody else does, but kind of sees things in this different way, in this different light, shines this light on the illusions, the fake, ideas and the disguises that other people have, in order to see what is really happening behind the scenes here, and predicting and understanding that even more. Let's see. Yep, seeing behind expectations and stuff like that. He can also weaken demons and kind of the undead and stuff like that. And that I imagine as like these false ideas, these false intuitions. You know, the ability to just be like, that's not really what's going on. And here's all this information about it that hopefully kind of expresses that idea that demon is not real. It's not something that makes actual sense. I hope that made actual sense. Control time. He can reverse death. He can change time, stop aging, stuff like that. Time is not linear for introverted intuitives. It's, you know, they're seeing things in this big meta viewpoint, this vantage point that has to be disconnected from time, or it's not introverted intuition. It's a different thing. He can track ethereal and corporeal beings, and this is kind of my idea of. Well, I was thinking introverted intuition is like a sentinel, like this bow and arrow hunter, right? This is how I've explained it through my metaphors within this channel. But that's a lot to do with tracking and following these introverted intuitions to where they're going to go. And not necessarily influencing it, but just kind of being like, this is that idea, this is that concept, and I'm just going to follow it to where it goes and see what happens. He can probe the minds of others, and this is, once again, what I've been talking about with introverted intuition, shifting the vantage points and the mindsets in order to understand things from a different perspective. He can use this to also project a mystical shield, which I don't think is as much introverted intuition as it is introverted feeling, which I'm going to get into in a little bit as well. And he can also create portals to other dimensions to bring and carry and levitate people through those as well. It's kind of like medieval, I guess. The ability to just open a portal from one place to another or another dimension and step through it and see what things are like on that other side. You know, imagining the other viewpoint, or zooming out and seeing it from this larger lens, perhaps. Next up, extroverted thinking. His powers come a lot from principalities. He kind of invokes other powers and divine sources and beings, and he serves them sometimes, and they serve him by giving him their powers. And I feel this is a very extroverted thinking thing. He's using the sources of power that are not necessarily his own. They're not his own introverted ideas. They're extroverted ideas. And extroverted thinking is a way of making decisions based on, you know, step-by-step approaches to the outer world, and kind of using like systems and these methods that are sure to work most of the time. And this is kind of what it is. I mean, he's using other people's ideas and powers to strengthen himself, to let him act in the outer world in the way that he wants to. And they say that Doctor Strange is as powerful as the entity he invokes. And I think this also is an extroverted thinking thing. It's like whatever principle he's using is going to let him affect the world. So if it's like you see something, you're like, I don't know how to approach this, so you think about the standard methods that kind of have worked before, and you use that to go forward, like the scientific method, and you check and test and go back over it again and again and again. And that's kind of like invoking this principality, this entity's powers. And using those two, I think he's got a lot of ability and a lot of strengths. And even just with that, he's like one of the most powerful beings. Okay, but there are more artifacts and things that he does within within himself, as well as in the cognitive function stack, which I kind of mentioned before. Introverted intuition is the strongest, the dominant function, and then extroverted thinking is the auxiliary support function. And then there are two more that kind of come out and sometimes cause problems, sometimes are helpful, but it depends on how they're used. And so getting into those, introverted feeling, I think, is largely represented within the book of Vishanti. It's the greatest source of white magical knowledge on Earth, and it's a book. It has a lot of defensive magic, which is how INTJs would use introverted feeling usually. It's on a way of defending their introverted intuition side, a way of kind of protecting themselves by sticking with what fits to them, what's authentic to themselves and congruent with how they view morality and stuff like that in the world. And it's indestructible, this book, as is introverted feeling in a lot of ways. Like when you make a decision with introverted feeling, this is another decision-making function, it's made. Like it's very hard to change that. It takes a lot of thinking and outside sources and experiences and stuff like that to like really reshape the foundation that makes you according to your own personal beliefs. So it's indestructible. I thought that fit very well. And also, apart from spells and mystical knowledge, this book also contains information about persons and events. It is unknown how the book is able to contain up-to-date and recent information, even though it was written thousands of years ago. Introverted feelers use a brain region, F8. Dario Nardi calls it the grounded believer. And this brain region recalls facts and details specific to your likes and dislikes and your beliefs. And I felt that fit very well with that as well. This is the information connected to why I feel this way, and it's right there. It's unrefutable in that sense. Sorry about that. Okay, moving on. SE, the cloak of levitation, is the artifact that I felt represented this really well. And it's this cloak that has essentially a mind of its own. I mean, it's connected as well to the will of the most recent wearer. But it moves on its own. It can deflect attacks and punch and stuff like that. It can levitate, and it helps him be resistant to elemental and physical damage as well. And one more thing, it has the ability to change shape and mimic other garments, like a business suit or whatever. Extroverted sensing is the INTJ's inferior function, and it comes out a lot of times in ways that is unpredictable, and it's not necessarily how the INTJs view themselves. Like when it comes out, it's like, whoops, like that really wasn't me. That's kind of a different, it had a mind of its own. It was a different part that came out. And that's kind of why I thought that extroverted sensing was represented well within this cloak of levitation. It's like, it's not fully controllable by him, but it's there to protect him, and it defends against the the physical, real reality, the real world, which is how it, blocks attacks and can kind of, I think it can like harden a bit and, deflect elemental damage and stuff like that, like I said. And let's see, there was one more. Oh, the ability to kind of change how it looks, like I just said. Extroverted sensing dominance, like ESPs, have this desire to impact the world in a sensory way and be impacted in a sensory way. And a lot of times you'll see them like dressing up really nice to fit the mood or to create a mood, and kind of like my ESFP friend definitely always has like different really nice clothes, always sets his hair like perfectly, cares a lot about his physical image, and I think that's represented within the Cloak of Levitation. Okay, so I think that I've explained those abilities well enough. If you want more information, go do some research or read the comic books, watch the movie. But as an ENTJ, or an INTJ rather, as an INTJ, it's going to seem a little weird, of course, to think of yourself in this way, right? Like I can shift perspectives and go into this astral projection realm and shape the world around me and stuff like that. Like that's kind of weird, right? But it's important to know that like shifting your viewpoint and changing the definitions that you live by actually gives you a power in the real world. Like if you change how you define yourself, as you know, I'm sure you know this, then you are going to be able to work towards living up to that. Like saying that I'm inspiring, creative, and energetic. I'm not usually a really energetic person, but by trying to change that definition of myself, I'm able to grow into that. And I think that by seeing yourself through a metaphor, an analogy in this way, you're able to kind of, really realize your powers and see yourself as someone who can save the world in a way. And if you're not an INTJ, but you're watching this because you stumbled across it or whatever, or you're interested in it, it's if you have any INTJs in your life, or you're just curious about them, use this as a way of viewing how they approach the world. The ability to detach from that real world, see into time and through time, dispelling illusions, disguises and stuff like that. Limited ability to protect themselves with this defensive magic. But, if you're always focusing on the defensive side, then you're not going to be offensive enough, and you're not going to be able to actually protect ahead of time, build that defense. Did that make sense? You're not going to be able to be proactive. And being proactive is what extroverted thinkers need to do, in the sense of INTJs. Like they need to use their insights in a way that's going to create impact in the world, in the logical thinking sense of the world, building systems and making plans and checking, measuring things like that. And that's what the principalities and the Eye of Agamotto do for the INTJs. Okay, so I think that that's enough. I don't know, I was really interested in looking at Doctor Strange in this way, and I thought it was very helpful. So I hope that it helped you as well. Like I said, go out there and change your perspective, change your definition, and go on for endless questing and learning about yourself and about other people. All right, good luck, have fun. Thank you. Peace.